Welcome to
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose is a podcast of inspiring people whose stories help you see things differently, live with intentionality, elevate the way you participate in the world, and take the necessary leaps in your life to seek and find your passions. Come with us and develop the courage to wholeheartedly pursue your purpose and unleash your truest potential.
All right. Hey everyone, I'm Philip Loudon, your guest host for People of Purpose. And today I have Michael Gornik. Michael is one of the founders of Polestar Village, a living community based off the teachings of Yogananda in Fort Collins. He's also in Fort Collins, Colorado. And he's also lived in or had experience with living communities for the past 40 or so years.
Correct. Yes.
I see your plans here. It looks like an amazing project. I'm curious. I'm curious how your journey with living communities began.
Okay. Well, grew up in a large family, so that probably is part of my community's background, is just being in an environment where there's lots of access to people and the resources that people bring to each other in all the important ways. When I was in my late teens, my brothers and I went in on a piece of property in the middle of Appalachia, 40 acres in Kentucky that we bought for $1,250. And we were going to try to start a community there. And so it was 5 miles of four-wheel drive road, and we didn't have a four-wheel drive. So we were literally with a wheelbarrow hiking out 5 miles with a bag of concrete and a guitar. You know, we go out there and camp and try to build. And actually, we did build a cabin out there. And thank God we didn't succeed, because we would have basically been hillbillies. But it was a great learning experience. And that was sort of our first try at communities, you know. Time went on. I got interested in yoga and meditation and moved to Yogananda Village in Northern California and spent over 20 years there. So really had a great experience there and learned about all the things that are important and essential for human beings to thrive, really, which I think, you know, we're physical, mental, and spiritual beings, and we have to address all parts of ourselves. And definitely sort of had the bug about community, intentional communities from a young age. Then in the year 2000, my wife and I started Polestar Gardens, which is an educational nonprofit. We have a very specific path of yoga we follow based on Yogananda's teachings. But Polestar Gardens was created to more focus on the universal principles behind all great teachings and religions and philosophies. And so we had a lot of fun in the early years. We did a lot of youth programs. We ended up moving to Hawaii and built a retreat center there, an intentional community there. Did a lot with community service projects, teaching music, sports, construction skills, all the things that we know and love, and shared them with students of all ages. In the year 2018, Kilauea volcano happened, and kind of, as we say, the volcano ate our community, you know, which it didn't really. But our main buildings burned to the ground, and so we lost what we had there and we did have lava insurance, so that was amazing. We ended up with a little bit of money to explore a new campus, and we looked all over the country and had quite a few offers and opportunities to go do something in various places, but we ended up here in Fort Collins in this project. We really love it. Yeah.
Nice. And so can you tell us a bit about what your vision is for this project in Fort Collins?
You bet. So the idea is to try to create an environment that helps us to thrive, you know, physically, mentally, and spiritually, as I mentioned before. So within that, we consider, you know, daily spiritual practice is one of our values, recreation, play, work opportunities, service opportunities, socializing. If you get all these things and you put them in one campus, then it's a much more wholesome lifestyle than if you drive to work and then you drive home and then you drive to your church or wherever you go, or you drive to socialize. All those things sort of break down the fabric of community relations. You probably know this, but the new urbanists feel that the car has actually a lot of why we have so much disintegration of community relations right now, because they say that, proximity and chance encounters are the two main things that make human connection. With the car, we take away the chance encounters. Right. So if you're on foot on a campus with a bunch of other people, you're walking around daily to meet the needs of your life, you run into those people regularly, in a very short period of time. You will know their name, you will know their story, you will connect with their kids, you will, so that doesn't happen when you're in a car. It doesn't happen. You're just driving by in a death trap at 70 miles an hour. So anyway, walkability was a big theme in what we're trying to accomplish here. Polestar is a service organization. Inherent in community, I feel, is taking care of those with special needs, kids and elders for starters. So we've built into our plan an elder living center that combines a preschool with elder living. And this is kind of is that my phone? So, and there's about 100 of these in our nation now that are thriving, and we've talked to people who run them. And so that's a pattern we like and are promoting. We've done a lot of age-in-place design where the accessibility has been thought through. This development is pre-certified for what's called lifelong communities. And this is a new certification being developed by Colorado State University. And they think about everything we're thinking about. How do we thrive? How do we live lightly on the planet? How do we grow food? How do we keep our elders well taken care of and our kids? How do we help those with special needs? Are our places visitable? Fine, you live there and you can walk up the stairs, but what about somebody who can't? They can't visit you, And so they've thought about a lot of these aspects, and we're basically trying to bring everything we know about how to live well on the earth to bear in this development.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, one thing I love about communities and just like thinking about communities is that you're really creating a micro society. So it really brings in like everything from economics to conflict resolution to how people relate to things you're talking about with aging people versus young people. There's just such a fascinating.
Well, and you think about it, we put so much, at least a lot of people do, energy into building their home, which is of course important, but we have put very little effort into building our neighbor. They aren't done with intention. They are created by the people who live there. So they have this concept of community-led housing, where the community tries to understand its needs and how to create them in a neighborhood rather than just, a developer trying to figure out what will sell the best. It's a different, they overlap certainly, but they're different. They have a different focus.
And what are the things, I guess I have a few questions. What are the things you think are important that developers aren't paying attention to that you're paying attention to as you're like intentionally developing in a community?
Yeah, well, it's I would say a main thing is diversity, that, you tend to, the focus on normal real estate development is you have high-end houses. You don't want to build anything small. All got to be a certain size. All got to be a certain income level thereby, So we really wanted a diverse community. And we were told by many developers who consulted with us that, don't have a wide diversity of products, just as a practical measure, as well as, a sustaining value measure. And I can understand why they would say that. But we really wanted a diverse community. So our smallest units are 450 square feet. That's quite small. That's a tiny home, basically. Yeah. And then we have everything up to several thousand square feet you could build if you wanted to. We have single family lots. So we have the whole gamut. So that's one thing. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, one of the biggest things I'm interested about, because we're also like working on, we're getting our feet wet into like development projects to create these types of things in the future. And so I'm just curious about like the economic structure.
Yes. Yes. No, and I would say that it is, there is no um, easy way to get affordability built into any new construction.
So
But,
are
yeah,
you guys are you guys doing all the building, or do people come and they buy a lot and then they build their own house there?
both.
Okay.
So I've been a builder my whole life. So the nonprofit will have an arm that does building, and we expect to build most of the units, or at least many of them. But we are not compelling anyone. You can buy a single family lot, and build it yourself, or hire your own architect and builder, whatever you want. The multifamily will probably be a lot more involved in. So, but yeah, that is a bit of a sore point on this development. Is we started out with a lot, higher ideals for keeping our price points down. And the reality is it's just really hard to do. One, these are all LEED Gold certified buildings. So now that is a plus. And they're net zero energy ready. So you basically won't have a utility bill, but the cost of getting there is not insignificant. So it's a real hard thing to sort of juggle those factors. Now there is a lot of money being put aside for affordable and what they call missing middle housing, and we are working on tapping those funds. So far, we haven't got a clear path to how to tap them, but we are. Colorado has this Prop 123 that is, hundreds of millions going into this, sort of helping to keep houses more affordable, and we are working on that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the individuals who are living there, are there going to be people that are renting, or is everyone going to own their house?
Both.
Okay.
So we will have rentals and we will have individual ownership. We have townhome structures, and we also have what we're now calling a co-housing LLC, where a subset of all the properties, for starters, about 33 units, we're going to buy in a group as an LLC, and it'll function a lot like a tenants in common. If you happen to know that model, most people don't, but we've had a lot of experience with tenants in common. And the idea is that you have, let's say we have 30 units, you get 20 people to go in on it. Now you've got, each of them can take a unit and have exclusive use of it, because it's an undivided whole, and you have 10 rentals for income. And then the beauty of it in a community setting is, because in those 30 units, some are larger, some are smaller, some are in different locations, you can upgrade, downgrade, or, and without putting your house on the market, moving to another community, you can. And we've seen this in communities. This is how it goes. People come single and they get in a relationship, and then they have kids, and then the kids move away, and then it's always changing. So in a community setting like this, you have this sort of stock of ownership of multiple units, and you can change your place without changing your community. And so it's very practical.
Okay. And then so that's the tenants in common, is if they pool together and they have shared ownership of houses or units. Okay. And if they need to at some point, well, if someone wants to sell.
You can sell your
shares.
member, your shares. Yeah.
Okay.
And in the communities we've worked with over the years who have done this, they've had a waiting list,
Right.
When you're ready to sell, they're ready to buy. So I would expect that here. We're in a very desirable city, in a very desirable location, and with a very unique vision of how to live. I would expect that here.
Okay. And then what do you feel like in your time living in different communities? Like, what have you seen that is the biggest failing points for communities, or the biggest reasons that they don't work?
Yeah, it comes down to the people. It comes down to the character of the people, honestly. You can have all the great government systems in the world. If you don't have people who have character, you're going to have lots of trouble. Our belief is that, and this is why we want to be a spiritual community, because that suggests a certain inward looking about finding fulfillment, about working on yourself, about having an idea that the purpose of life is to grow and to evolve and to improve. And so our experience is when you have people who are engaged in their inner life in that way, you have a much better chance at communal harmony, as opposed to people who are trying to extract their peace from others and the world,
Right.
you know. And so that's a very important thing. We've also learned, we have these sort of 4 pillars of community we talk about, that if we invest in them on a regular basis, it will keep a connection at a maximum and drama at a minimum. And they are share sacred space regularly. Part of that is we have a daily practice. There'll be meditations in the temple every day, so people can participate in that. And then there's an ethic of community service. So this is a lot about how we understand our lives, that part of our purpose is simply to help each other. It's also one of the ways we get the most joy, is by making our lives useful to others. So it's very self-serving. It is when people serve together creatively. And I think the creative is important too. You're creative in your service and you work together on things. That is really binding and connecting for people, and tends to bring in that more transcendent feeling of connection that keeps you from getting lost in people's personalities and quirks, and we all have them. And then the third one is share food. You do that on a regular basis.
Right.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, you want to just share meals. It's just part of being connected and part of being a family. And it is somehow a significant thing. And then the last one is play. And you have to invest in playing with others. And as you get older, it's harder to remember. It's funny how that is, but it's very, very important.
What does that look like? What does play look like?
It can look like anything. I mean, for many decades, for us, I always said volleyball was part of our religion, because we played every day, every week was Friday volleyball, and then we'd have a meal together, and most people played. So it was fun. It was an event. We've kind of outgrown that. So now we play more pickleball, but here's a good example. Community theater. It's an incredible way to express that sort of recreation, because it has all those things in it, and it's play. It can be games. Music can be playful. There's a lot of ways to get play in there. Yeah.
And how do you keep play alive in the community?
Yeah. Well, you get it on the schedule.
Yeah.
And to be perfectly honest, we're not killing it right now. We lost our venue. We had a lifestyle where this was all in one place until 2018. We were 15 years on the Big Island, and we kind of proved the concept, because this is different, because what we're developing here, people have their own single family homes. There, we had much more of a shared kitchen situation, and that's the front lines of co-living, sharing kitchens and even bathrooms in some cases. So it takes a lot of energy to do it well. Yeah.
I've lived with my business partners for the past 4 years. We've lived in the same house, and I started a business together.
All right.
With Tanner's wife, with my fiance at times, and it's like, with other people as well. And the kitchen.
You know the drill. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, dishes are important, and it sort of, when people would come live with us in Hawaii, we'd say, it takes a lot more energy to live well, but it's a better life, and so you have to go beyond your own personal needs all the time, divorce yourself from them, but you have to consider a larger reality. And that's a great exercise for any of us, to expand our awareness, our consciousness, into considering something beyond ourselves. So that's good.
And when you say that the kitchen and bathrooms are the front line, is that like you're not doing that anymore in this community?
No, but we will share a kitchen and we will have common meals. So we'll have a lot of shared things.
Okay.
But it's not like what makes that particularly intense, and we've lived that way for decades, so we know the deal, is if you don't have a kitchen or a kitchenette, you must interface with the group. You don't have even that level of space to take some private time, and which is needed sometimes, And I consider it good training, but not necessarily sustainable for most people, and not necessarily, even important or necessary, but very good training. We learned a lot about community living that way and got good at it, really, and had all the, it's hard in some ways, but then you have all the other ways that it's just, I mean, the memories and the connections we have with people we live with like that for years, they never go away. You still feel like you're like this with them. They're part of your family. So that's kind of cool.
How many people? So Polestar in Hawaii, you guys built that from the ground up?
We did. Yeah.
Okay. Over 15 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And how many people were living there, like towards the...
It wasn't large. It was about, 12 to 15 as a core group.
Okay.
But then we had ongoing, programs.
Okay.
Woofers, if you know what that is. And then we'd have special events, and if we had elder programs and youth programs and internship programs and yoga programs. And so we had, when it was full and all the campsites were full, it was over 40 people, and still one kitchen,
Wow.
So it was a happening thing. Yeah.
Okay. And then after the or fires,
the volcano came, and we had a river of lava flow right along our northern border for 2 months. We all got evacuated, and we never imagined, they have these flow lines where they know the lava's going to go. Well, it was historically voluminous amount of lava, and so it got out of those normal corridors. And then in addition to that, it flowed for so long that it killed all the vegetation. So all of a sudden fire became an issue, which is normally not the case on the east side of the island because it rains all the time. So anyway, we never imagined we would lose it to fire. I mean, we didn't even do fire clearing, So, but that's what eventually got it. It dried out, many trees died, many plants died, and then it burned our main buildings to the ground. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. And so you've been out here for 3 years. Now you're rebuilding this.
Yes, and this is our new expression of how to do community. And to be fair, this is more ambitious than we would have chosen, but this is the way it came to us. We were more thinking we wanted to do, when we started Polestar, this is more like what we had in mind. We wanted to do, but, multiple units and, have a diversity of housing types and all that. Hawaii just sort of, we walked through the doors as they opened, and it got developed, and it was a great thing, and it did most of what we wanted to do in community. But what we're doing now is closer to what our real ideal was, The main thing being that it's more accessible. Hawaii is so remote.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're right here next to the city of Fort Collins.
Yeah, we're in the city, and we're 1.5 miles from the university. So, the goal is you have to live there. So, school and jobs and just the practicality of life and making spiritual community like this accessible to people was one of our goals.
So the common fold is the living in the community as well as like the spiritual alignment. And people are working normal jobs, or working different types of jobs. They're going to the city for all the things that they need.
Yeah, I mean, we see how it all unfolds. I mean, lots of people work remote now, so that's more common. There will be a lot of inherent economic opportunity within the community itself. So there's that, the construction for one. That'll be many years of that. And then, we'll have programs through the nonprofit like we've always had. We'll have a guest, who want to come and stay. So there's a lot of economic opportunity in the whole thing. We'll have the preschool, elder care, the farm and garden, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, groceries are 1/2 mile. If you want to go buy groceries, you can walk there. The university is a mile and a half. You can be there in 10 minutes on a bike. The Max line, which is an upgraded bus service, is coming to Elizabeth Street in the next years. And that will mean there's a bus that goes there every 20 minutes.
Wow, so you guys are just right.
You could so live here without a car. And also, I don't think I mentioned, we're planning a car share and an e-bike share program.
Okay.
Both. So you could totally live here without a car, without owning a car.
Was it really important for you guys to be this close to a city?
We did want to be close. We've seen that movie, where I lived at Yogananda Village for many years. It was, 20 miles to real services, and that's part of what, it's hard getting through the city, but part of what I tell myself every time I start complaining too much about how hard it is to get through the city and how much it costs and et cetera, I remind myself, Ananda has been there over 50 years and it's still 20 miles to a medical. Well, actually, no, they have a clinic down the road. So that's good. For a lot of the things you need to do, you need to drive. And this is designed to make that not an issue. I think if you factor in the cost of 20 years of people driving those miles, or 50 years of driving 20 miles, this is inexpensive, And of course, statistically, the carbon footprint of a rural environment is very high. People think they want to move in the country, but you can't do it without, it's way easier on the planet to be compact and close to things. Way, so.
And so there's around 80 residents here, or how many units are in
144 units.
144.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, meditation and yoga temple, a community center that has a commercial kitchen with 8 guest rooms above it, half-acre community garden right in the center, and then other gardens around in the different clusters, 2 pickleball courts, a barn for maintenance, and also a little multi-purpose. There's a neighborhood commercial center that is required by the city. And it's basically commercial zoning of about 1,700 square feet. And we don't even know what it is yet, but it's an entrepreneurial opportunity for somebody to put something in there. It has 3 micro apartments up above it. So it could be a live-work kind of situation for somebody. It's kind of cool. Yeah.
Wow, that's exciting. And then what about for things such as conflict resolution, or do you guys have any infrastructure for that? Is that necessary?
It is. It is a good thing. We more want to focus on investing in the relationships, and I think that's at Polestar in Hawaii, we did have sort of a conflict resolution, strategy, and we will have one here also when we really hit a wall. But we want to put the main focus of our energy into investing in the relationships. And I think that's just a smart way to go about it.
So through daily meditation, through opportunity to connect and play, through having a walking community where people can connect with one another on a deep level, having opportunities to break bread together. Is that
Totally.
a weekly? Is that
daily. On most of those things, they're in there daily. And, people, in Hawaii, because it was a sink or swim kind of situation, we put a lot of energy into really getting people's participation daily. This will be a little looser knit, but there will be a core group that's all in on the daily drill,
And when you say daily drill, is that just daily dinners together, or?
Absolutely. Yeah. There'll probably be 3 meals a day.
Wow.
5 days a week, and then a couple, that's how we used to do it. It's just practical to go in on preparing food. This is one of the things people say in co-housing that they love the most about co-housing is they can show up and do dishes or cook twice a month. And then any other time they can just go and get a meal. There's a home prepared meal waiting for them, very practical.
And so do you have people who are preparing those meals? Is their job to prepare those meals?
Yes.
Okay.
In this case, that's one of the advantages of the scale if you're 20 units, that doesn't pencil out. If you're 144, it can't, you know? So it does make sense.
And so, so this brings us to another area, which is shared resources. Do you guys have any level of shared resources? And like, what does that look like?
Well, the garden and the food growing is a big collaborative, cooperative
the community garden.
And then, all the common entities I mentioned they actually will be owned by the nonprofit, but it's the nonprofit's charter to make them available to the people who live at Polestar Village, so those are all shared resources. And then we have one of the ways we hope to get affordable housing is we've designed in a lot of cases, in some of our townhomes, we've designed as an over-under duplex, where there's a small unit downstairs. It's 3-story, and the small unit is downstairs, and then there's a 2-story townhome above it. So it's actually a duplex. But it's a single purchase. So one person has to buy that, and they can rent that lower place. You could also create a tenants in common, and 2 people could buy it. It'd be efficient and affordable. We've also made units where downstairs is what we call a convertible guest room, or what we used to call a lockout. It has its own entrance, it has its own bathroom, and even has a little wet bar. So you could have a hot plate there. So you could have a long-term guest there and not have to share the kitchen or the bathroom. And in fact, that works even better in this context because Polestar will have all the common facilities where you can go get a, regular meal and meet a lot of your other needs. So those are very, very micro units, but they could function as affordable housing for just a single person or something.
So affordable housing, both for like whoever owns the duplex, they can lighten their burden by renting that out.
Exactly.
And whoever wants to live there can like live in that smaller unit.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's sort of a housing hack.
Yeah, like a house hack. Yeah. Okay. So for the shared meals, anyone that has access to that, guest, anyone else who's kind of in the area, and they're like, and that if you want to go there for 3 meals a day, you're able to.
You can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's all paid by the nonprofit? Is that paid by donors, or is that an HOA fee?
Yeah, that's part of the HOA fee.
Okay.
The normal HOA fee includes 1 meal a week.
Okay.
So whether you come or not, you're paying for 1 meal. So it's a little bit of an encouragement to come at least once,
Okay, nice. I love that.
And then we also have a system where anyone can lower their fees by volunteering, work service. So that's another way we're trying to keep it. It's hard, to build LEED Gold brand new. It's hard. The economics are hard. And the good news is that Polestar does have an appeal beyond the people who will live here. And we do get people who donate, So we've been pretty successful with donations. So we'll keep that going. So, the vision doesn't have to be born just by the people who live there. There's a wider base of support for Polestar.
And then do you guys have investors as well, or is it just mostly?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
And are the investors, can you tell me more about how that works?
Well, we did a peer-to-peer lending program. That's how we got started. So we have about 30 investors right now. And it started as a loan to the nonprofit that they could convert to a unit once we had one. So this is a fairly easy thing to do. And we've raised like $5 million so far. And so we have gone a long ways with that. Just as of the last couple months, because we passed our final hearing at the city, so we're no longer in preliminary development. We're in the final development phase. We can now take reservations, which is what we're doing now. So people can reserve lots and units and convert their loan into saying, hey, I want that lot or I want that multifamily unit. So that's just begun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
And so for the investors, are they getting a percentage return on their money, or is it mostly just converting to housing?
We had a deal where the peer-to-peer lenders we would accrue 4% interest to their note. And it was a 4-year note, and they could get it back with 4% after 4 years. But if they converted to a unit, they would convert their note retroactively at 6%. So it was a little incentive for them to convert, and it's good for us to sell the units, So that's where it stands. People who are converting are getting 6%. If you don't convert to a Polestar product, you can just get your money back after 4 years. That's the way it's worked. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And are these donors mostly people that you guys knew, or I'm sorry, these investors, are they mostly people that you guys knew, or how'd you find?
Yes, we have about 3,000 on our mailing list, and it is mostly people we have known, but new people are finding out about Polestar all the time. So we have monthly Zoom calls. So, we do a virtual tour of the property, and that people can meet other people who are interested, and that's kind of how we're going along.
Did it take you guys the most of the past few years to get everything approved by the city?
Yes, that's and we're not there yet. I mean, we're approved, so there's nothing that can stop us now, but it still costs money, and it still takes time, and yeah, this city has been very, very difficult.
Yeah,
unimaginably so. It's just
bureaucracy, or is it?
Yeah, they move the goalposts. They have high turnover, so you get a new person in the department, and now you're kind of starting over. There's so many things that are hard about this process.
And what were some of the hardest things to get approved?
Well, the vision itself was easy because we bought the land because of the zoning. So it's zoned for what we're doing.
Okay.
In fact, one of the city planners who was part of the zoning group that made this zoning, when he saw this plan, he said, "This is exactly what this zoning was intended for."
Interesting.
So that was nice here. Despite that, you'd think that would make it easier. It is not. There's a lot of very technical work to be done. Floodplain management, a lot of engineering. There's many different city departments that have to get their comments met, and you basically got to go through all of them. And we're on our sixth iteration of the plan. We'll go in about 3 or 4 weeks, and after every iteration, take their comments, which is pages and pages and pages of comments, and change the plan. So we are getting closer and closer. And it is widely expected that this 6th will be our second last plan, that the 7th will be it. And then we make the development agreements and we can break ground. We're shooting for mid next year, 2025.
To break ground?
Yeah.
And then what does that look like? What's first?
Our first phase will be the single family lots, which are those up there.
Okay.
And that's the smallest bite of infrastructure for the greatest amount of financial value, comes into play there. So we'll get those ready and going. And then the second phase will be the village center. We'll get these apartment buildings going, and we'll get them. We have a single family dwelling down here. It was a little bit of an anomaly. It was supposed to be a duplex, long story, but the city required that it would be a single house. And we realized, single family house, that it's a perfect phase 1 common house. So we're gonna build all these together. And then we'll have all the functions of community living, a place to gather and do food and meditate and garden. And so we'll kind of have our community back, and lots more building to do. But, we'll have the pattern of life there that fed us for so long.
What's the long-term vision? What do you hope for this to live on to be?
Well, in my mind, it's the culture that's important. Mm-hmm. It's not the buildings. You need a container for it.
Yeah.
But I really believe that if you set up a culture with a certain pattern of living, it could go on down the decades and longer.
Yeah.
Because your kids grow up that way, and they see the value of how you live. And I think that is really the goal, to have a culture that sustains, and outlives us all.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. It's a big endeavor to.
It is. It is. It is kind of crazy ambitious. But one thing I've noticed, having been in the communities movement for pretty much my whole adult life, this used to be really counterculture. It's not so much anymore.
Yeah.
And I think COVID was part of it, the shift, that and the political environment. People more understand the importance of community right now than ever in my life, and why you would want to put intention behind creating it. It's like an afterthought.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Like what you said about how people they form community through encounter, and what were the two things?
Oh yeah, proximity and chance encounters.
Proximity and chance encounters. I love that, because I think about that like all the time. Like I work remotely. I work for myself, so I'm on my computer, and then I drive to wherever else I'm going. Some of the times where I'm the most happy, in reflection, I realize the times I'm the most happy is when I'm breaking bread with good people and just having good conversation. And when I have the chance encounters, which is like really incredible conversations. So those connections like are really what I enjoy the most in life. And so it's interesting to think how walking areas are so important to that.
Absolutely.
And my Courtney, my fiance, she reached out to the guy who created the Blue Zones documentaries.
Oh, nice.
And she asked him like, what's the one thing you recommend for longevity? And he was like walking, live in a walking town.
Yes, that's great. That is great. No, it's more common in other cultures, so that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, because we do a lot of like gatherings in Kansas City where we host a lot of events and people come.
Nice.
People are really hungry for it, but everything's so spread apart that I'm like really excited for
Right.
more walking. Just something like this. Like, this is like, to me, is how humans were like meant to live. It's how humans live for such a long time. Another part of the Blue Zones is multi-generational living. Like there's all these things that that contribute towards longevity that come from like the way that we used to live in this modern day tribe.
Absolutely. No, that is great.
Cool. Yeah, we can wrap up. I'm curious why Yogananda was the path that you kind of took, like how that came to be.
Well, I was raised Catholic. I didn't really, by the time I had 12 years of Catholic schooling, I was considered myself an atheist. And I finally, when I was in high school, there were a couple of the brothers there who were into yoga and meditation. And I remember it dawning on me that this idea of religion is about seeking something that's true. So that's something that's in yourself. It's not this sort of just overlay of beliefs and sort of rituals and practices. And it became instantly very interesting to me, and especially meditation. So I started meditating, and I think what's beautiful about what Yogananda brought, and others have too, is just this balanced idea of we have to deal with all levels of reality. We're multi-level beings. And so our physical body, our emotional body, our mental faculties, and our spiritual, and kind of that holistic approach really appealed to me. And as an aside, Yogananda was also very into intentional communities. Spoke passionately about the need for small communities to be developed where people would live more simply, and what he called simple living and high thinking, so focus on the deeper rhythms of life, the more important things in life, So yeah, that appealed to me a lot. Also, when I moved to Ananda Village when I was 19, it was such a great environment to grow in. I mean, land and people and learning and buildings and meditation and just a culture that just completely lit me up compared to what I was doing otherwise, and I just saw what a powerful thing the environment is. So it's another famous Yogananda quote: environment is stronger than willpower. If you really want to improve yourself, think about your environment and how you can get it to align with the things that you care about. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. The fact that the science of yoga was based on inner experience, not on just belief or things pressed in from outside, that it was a self-exploration I think is really what won me to that. So
Nice, amazing. You went there when you were 19.
yeah.
So you've been living in community for
Yep.
a really long time. I'm sure you've seen the good, the bad, the ugly.
Absolutely. I say that often. We've seen it all. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And, we're all imperfect.
And you're still for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because the growth that comes is soul satisfying, really. And you have to look at why did we come here? What are we doing here? And shying away from what's in front of you doesn't make it easier anyway. Just putting more intention into it, I think, is really the right idea.
Cool. And is that your soul? Is that like the soul thing that people come, like, who are going to live in the community? Is it through like their connection to those core values?
It is self-selecting. But, anybody who would choose to live here is resonating with something, they found it somehow. There's no accident there, So, and the other thing I've learned about a community is, people who on the surface look like they wouldn't connect at all turn out to be just incredible and all in and super motivated to participate. And other people who look great, like they're, going to jump in, doesn't work out. So I sort of leave that to the universe to let it unfold and trust that the right people will come here and be. We do have that is part of why the nonprofit is owning the common areas. It does give us more influence over them. We're pretty easy to get along with, but respect and, no drugs or alcohol in the common areas and respectful behavior. That's it. I don't care what people believe or don't believe. It's how they behave and treat each other that matters.
Right.
And we all believe something different. That's not news. But if you resonate with something that lights your fire here, then get involved. Maybe it's community service, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's pickleball, maybe it's just maybe it's growing food or just being in an environment where people are kind. Those are all great things, and part of the culture we want to create.
So you mentioned that people can connect with you through the website and you guys do Zooms.
Yes, on the website, on the calendar, you can see when our Zoom things are, and the website is a lot of information, including the fact that you can make reservations now. So we're moving it forward. Yeah.
What's the name of the website?
PolestarVillage.com.
PolestarVillage.com.
Yeah.
And you guys are located in Fort Collins, Colorado. You can come in.
Absolutely.
For the meditations, for the potlucks.
Absolutely. We have weekly events. We have 2 or 3 weekly events going now. So there is, and there's, we've already got 400 people on our local mailing list. And then there's about 15 of us here who have come from either Hawaii or Polestar connections and are actively, creating the community now.
Yeah, amazing. So there you go, and tap in, and thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you.
Sharing some of your wisdom. I think I see a lot of the world going towards this, and to see people who are like actually tangibly making it happen is really inspiring.
Awesome. Thank you.